This is Olga of Kyiv, and she probably has the best revenge story in history. This revenge story goes back to the mid-10th century AD, around 945 AD to be exact. She was the Princess of Kiev, the Kievian people. Her husband, the prince, was known as Igor, and he went on a journey to collect tribute from a neighbouring city town, a people known as the Drevlians. Now this angered the Drevlian people because they had already paid Prince Igor tribute, so this was extra tribute on top of what they had already paid. And so in retaliation, when Prince Igor and his men got there, they killed his men and then executed him in the most brutal of ways. They brutally executed him by bending 2 trees to the floor and tying them in place. They then tied Prince Igor's hands to one tree and his legs to the other tree. They then released the trees, so when they snapped back into place, they tore him apart. Now that Prince Igor was dead, the Drevlians believed that they could actually unify the 2 people, the Drevlians and the Kievans. And so they proposed that Princess Olga should marry the prince of the Drevlians known as Prince Mul. But marriage was definitely not on her mind. There was only one thing, and that was revenge. The Drevlians sent 20 emissaries to try and convince Princess Olga to accept their proposal. And when they got there, Princess Olga said to them that they should make a grand entrance on a boat. So the 20 emissaries got onto a boat, and it was to be carried into the hall, banqueting hall, as a big grand entrance. But she had already had her people dig a very, very large and very deep pit. And so when the Drevlian emissaries were being carried in on the boat, they were just dropped into the pit and buried alive. Not knowing what had happened to their emissaries, Princess Olga had sent a messenger to the Drevlians telling them that she had accepted their offer, but she needed a grand escort to go back to the Drevlian city. And so the Drevlians sent a group of some of their best men, their warriors, their chieftains, to go get Princess Olga. When they got to Princess Olga, she offered them to relax in the bathhouse because of their long journey. So when they got into the bathhouse, instead of treating them to a nice relaxing afternoon, Princess Olga had her men lock the bathhouse and she burnt them alive. The Drevlians still had no idea this had happened. And so what Princess Olga did then, her and her army went to the city where her husband Princess Igor had been executed. Obviously the Drevlians still believed that she had accepted their proposal, and she said to them that she just wanted to hold a funeral feast in his honour, which they said okay. And she invited the whole town to come along to it and to get drunk, have a good time in honour of her late husband. After hours of feasting and drinking, and the Drevlian people were very, very drunk, Princess Olga made the signal, and her soldiers slaughtered the Drevlian people. Upwards of 5,000 Drevlians, of soldiers, townsfolk, were slaughtered. They were too drunk to do anything. The Drevlians pleaded for mercy. And so Princess Olga said for mercy, all they had to do was each household had to send her 3 pigeons or 3 birds. Now these homes, these houses were wooden, and so the majority of the birds would have been found at the houses where the people lived. And once all of the pigeons and birds were given to Princess Olga and her army, they tied pieces of smouldering, burning sulphur to the pigeon or bird's legs with some cloth, burning, smouldering cloth as well. And at her command, her army released all of these birds back into the city. And obviously they went back to their homes, their nests, from the homes that they were found. And the whole city of the Drevlian people, the Drevlian capital, burned to the ground. A lot of people burnt to death, but as survivors were running away from the burning city, Princess Olga had her men slaughter them and take some as slaves. Now that's what I call revenge. But also, Olga, Princess Olga of the Kievans, is also a saint, a Christian saint. And years later, the Russian Orthodox Church made her a saint. Saint Olga, the person that has probably the greatest revenge story in history.